Dennis launches. Oh!
And we welcome you to Open Court here on NBA TV. And today we're going to be turning back the clock to some extent as we name the starting fives by decade. The 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, up to 2009. Here's the esteemed panel that we have gathered for this. And when I introduce you, please give me the year of your birth. Brent Barry.
Hi, Ernie.
How are you?
1971.
1971. Isaiah Thomas.
1961.
Ooh. Okay, so we have someone here who's going to be all over the decade of the 1960s.
I'm going to be on the 60s.
3D, when were you born?
1968.
Okay, so you...
Damn, you old. 68?
We'll get to that guy in just a second. Grant Hill, you're still a puppy. What year were you born?
1972.
72. Reggie is a...
65.
65, okay. And Steve
50.
Smith?
69.
69. And Shaquille O'Neal?
I don't know my birthday because
my God.
my mother found me on the train. She found me in 3/6/1970. She found me in 1972.
Come on,
I know Miss Lucille.
1972.
Yeah.
I wasn't born. I was found on the train.
Yeah, they found
a big old baby.
No, she found him in between cars. This car and this car. Look at this. By the way, the footwear today on Shaq is just, that is awesome.
Different. He just got back from Madagascar.
What are those, Shaq?
Those are Toms.
Yeah, but
They do good work all over
Yes.
the
They
world.
do.
Yes,
Toms
they
are
do
awesome.
great work.
They really
They
are.
do good work, so I bought 100 pair.
Yes.
100 pair of leopard print
Yes.
like that? You know what? You know what? What's wrong with this dude? You know what? I hate it when you do that when you're looking at me. I really do. Okay, so we're going to start with the 1960s, and we want the starting five for the decade of the 1960s. So I'll kind of spark the conversation. We're going to go position by position. But maybe you can tell me, Isaiah, as a child of the 60s, do you remember who was the first guy you kind of idolized or watched in the 60s and that possibly played the point guard position that you said, hey, that's the guy?
Well, it was Cousy. It had to be Cousy. And it's interesting, the 60s, the Celtics was really one of the first teams to integrate. So everyone in my family and around, the community, we were Celtics fans because they had all the brothers. My father and my mother was like, hey, you got to root for the Celtics because, they breaking down racial barriers and everything else. And even though we were in Chicago, the Celtics were the team they told us to root for. And so when we went outside and played basketball and you ran a fast break, they would call it a Boston. And also we rooted for the St. Louis Cardinals in baseball because of Bob Gibson.
Wow.
So those were the two teams that we rooted for. So
some good stories from
Cousy
from
was
the 60s.
Cousy was the guy
Yeah.
at the point guard position at that time.
Where was Oscar Robertson?
I was going to say I didn't see him play, but for my family, it was always Oscar Robertson.
Yeah.
Oscar Robertson. So I would take Oscar at the point.
When you talk about Oscar Robertson, I was on a panel with Oscar Robertson and Jerry West in Los Angeles. And to hear Jerry West and to see Jerry West talk about Oscar Robertson, and I never forget, he moved up and he was like, hey, look, I know I'm the logo and everything else. He said, but in my era, there was no better basketball player than Oscar Robertson.
Amen.
And Oscar was sitting right here.
Amen.
Right.
And Oscar said, you right, Jerry.
You're right. That's how
Let's know now.
And to that point, we applaud LeBron James, all these guys getting triple doubles, and you look back then with Oscar, how he averaged a triple double for a whole season.
Yeah.
With all the technology we have today, they didn't have the ankles, the MRI, all the stuff we have now. They didn't have back then, and Oscar Robertson was consistent for a whole season that way.
Well,
It's funny too, because a period of time I was getting a lot of triple doubles, and I saw him in '97 in Cleveland, where they had the 50 greatest players, and they honored them there. And he said, "Young fella, what you're doing is impressive. but I did it the whole season.
Not only that, Grant, if you look at Oscar's numbers, if you take his first 5 years playing for Cincinnati, over his first 5 seasons of his professional career, he averaged a triple-double. 1 season statistically, he did it, but if you average the first 5 seasons, he did it.
And in the 60s, he averaged, let's see, 29, 10 assists, and 8.5 rebounds in the decade of the 60s. Shaq, if you had to name the starting center for that 60s team, and you're looking at Russell and Chamberlain and Bellamy, Willis Reed was playing for the Knicks back in the 60s.
Well, Wilt Chamberlain was indeed the most dominant player ever, but I was taught, from guys like Isaiah and guys like Mike that it's all about the championships. So Bill Russell has 11 championships. That will never ever be matched again. I think the closest to that is Mike with 6. So I'll probably have to go with Bill Russell on that.
We cannot throw out what Wilt. Wilt is Wilt. I mean, obviously he didn't win championships, but I'm with Shaq. You go with winners because Bill Russell won so much, but when you start saying which would you start a team with, it's hard to go against the Big Dipper. It's hard to go against him.
So who would we take for our point guard for the 60s? Oscar Robertson?
Oscar.
Who we go with our 2 guard? Sam Jones, Jerry West, Al Greer. Jerry West is hard to go against.
You the logo.
You got West. Jerry on that one.
Jerry for sure.
Small forward.
Elgin
Baylor.
Elgin buckets.
And while we're doing our starting 5, probably if the best 6 man would be John Havlicek. But power forwards.
I'm moving Russell to power forward and making Wilt
Reggie,
center.
you and me are on the same page because I'll put Wilt. I could put Wilt Chamberlain
the
anywhere.
best 5 of the decade.
Yeah.
So I'm going with my best 5. My best 5.
Best 5 no matter what position.
My best 5.
You make the rules as you go. That's
Wait, hold
you can do your own thing.
I was told your best 5 of the decade. My best 5 of that decade is Oscar, Jerry, Wilt, Elgin, and Russ.
Okay, that's fine. That's
But
great.
you can't.
And we'll all fly on one plane
take
when we leave
Russell.
here, and you can fly on your own. That's fine.
You can't take Bill Russell and say, "Hey, you my power forward." Hey, tell him that. Go tell Shaq right now. Hey, Shaq, I'm gonna move you to power forward. You're not the center no more.
If you don't move Russ to the 4, then who's your power forward?
I got to go Big Bob. LSU,
Pettit.
baby.
Yep.
Bob Pettit.
Yeah, Pettit. Yeah.
All right. So we've got an Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Bob Pettit.
Under Reggie rules, though, I might have Bill at the point.
Oh, now you.
I mean, we're going, Bill, Pettit. I think it's going to be
my best 5. Let me see what y'all's 5 are. I'm going with my best 5.
Bill at the point.
Bill Garden, Koozie.
If we're not using the Reggie rule, who's your center? Is it Wilt or is it Bill?
I got to go Big Bill.
Yeah. Give me Bill here.
Bill.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Watch this.
4.5. Here's the only way I can settle that. Our center for the 60s is Bill Chamberlain. And we will be back to talk about the 1970s as Open Court continues.
Pete Maravich bounce it here, bounce it behind him, fake the pass, and you as a defender would jump, and he turn back around, catch the ball, and shoot. That was a hell of a move. And I was like, okay, I got to try that.
Open Court previews the 2015-2016 season.
I think the East will be better this year.
Who's their identity come playoff time?
Meeting in the NBA Finals this year will be...
Don't miss Open Court, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBA TV.
We welcome you back to Open Court, and we move on to the 70s as we name the starting 5s for a number of decades here on this show.
Starting 5s or best 5?
Well, best 5 for you, but starting 5 for us.
Ernie clarified. Ernie, you run the
tried
show.
to clarify it in the first segment.
Yes.
I can try again. We're doing the starting 5. Reggie is saying his best 5. Look, you have a clicker. That's all I have. Don't want to see this? You don't have to. But I would encourage you to stick around. It is going to be fun. We may not be able to agree on anything, but that's half the fun. So among the point guards you might see in the 70s, you might see Clyde Frazier, you might see Tiny Archibald. Shooting guards, you might see Pete Maravich, Jerry West, Iceman. Small forwards like Rick Barry, Julius, John Havlicek. Power forwards like Bob McAdoo, Billy Cunningham. Centers like Kareem, Elvin Hayes, Bill Walton, Bob Lanier. Just some of those guys, just some of the guys to consider. But I mean, this is what makes water cooler talk, you know, great. If people still have water coolers at work, I don't know. but Reggie, what is your initial gut telling you about this team of the 70s?
Out of all the decades, to me, this was the hardest because you just mentioned like 9 or 10 guys, and I had a list of 16 or 17. And what gets lost in the translation is that was at the time when there was a transition, because obviously the NBA was just getting ready to kind of evolve, but you also had the ABA, and they get lost in the shuffle here. So I have some ABA players on my team.
So not only does it not have to be a starting five,
Did
it
I
doesn't
tell
even have
you,
to be
you're
in
the only
NBA.
one that would have got this. You're the only one that will get this.
All right.
As well as Bones.
Talk to me. Who you got?
I got Dr. J, who played in both. He played in the ABA as well as the NBA in the 70s. I got the Big E, Elvin Hayes.
Right.
In the middle, I have Kareem. And then, this is a healthy debate, guys. All right, here we go.
I always shudder when you
All right.
preface it that way.
This was the best player never to play in the NBA. I got Roger Brown. And a lot of you guys don't know probably who Roger Brown is, but you know who Roger Brown is. One of the best players ever. And the other one, this was a little bit of a homer, but the big hand guy, Mel Daniels, who was an absolute beast for those ABA Indiana Pacers. That was my best five.
Smitty, you have this very, it's like you're pondering this and taking it all in.
Yeah, because I'm taking offense to
nodding
Reg
in
that he
approval.
said, I don't know.
That you
When we
weren't
talk about
considering
ABA, obviously
anything.
Brent would know because his dad played in the ABA.
Mel Daniels went to my high school.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, you went there. But you went there after he did.
Yeah, he did.
You went to his high school.
But I'm glad what Reg did to talk about the ABA. I mean, I grew up with George Gervin, Spencer Haywood, and those guys talking about the ABA and Mel Daniels. So I totally agree with Mel Daniels because I didn't see him play, but everybody from my neighborhood, from my brother and my dad talked about how Mel Daniels, I didn't see Roger Brown, but people talk about Mel Daniels as being one of those guys that were special. And for me, my list obviously doesn't have Mel Daniels because I thought we were going to NBA. I'm glad you did that, Reg, because those guys get forgotten. Mine is Tiny, and George Gervin at the 2, by far, from a kid from the east side of Detroit. Got a chance to go follow him around and be his ball boy a lot of times in the Detroit Round Ball Classics. That's my 2 guard for sure. And then you have Dr. J and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Elvin Hayes.
How about this guy, Rick Barry, huh? You know him?
Well, this all decades thing kind of sucks for me because if I don't say him, I'm in big trouble. No, none of you have that dilemma. And, I just wanted to mention a couple things because I like to dive into this stuff. The 70s were massively chaotic for the NBA. Reggie obviously mentioned the ABA. After 9 seasons, it folded in 1976. So then you had the merger of what it was that the ABA, I think, ultimately, by folding, the ABA succeeded because it introduced to the NBA what it needed. Right. This was no longer just the Celtics. Everybody thought of the NBA as, oh crap, it's the Celtics or it's whoever Wilt Chamberlain is playing for. And then all of a sudden, now you go from 14 teams to 22 teams. You have incredible parity. There were 8 champions in the 70s. Nobody won back-to-back. So it was complete chaos in the 70s, but there was great play in both leagues that should be recognized. And my list is, and I just did NBA only. Walt Frazier at the point guard position. Of course, Tiny Archibald, everybody talks about that year of leading the league in both points and assists, which was remarkable, but Frazier was incredible for the Knicks during that whole span. At the 2 guard, I had John Havlicek. People think of Havlicek in the 60s, but really in the 70s, John Havlicek was second in points in the third in points in the decade and second in rebounds in the 1970s at the shooting guard position. And a lot of those minutes, as we know, coming as a 6th man. Small forward, Bob McAdoo got some serious consideration. His years in Buffalo as a scorer were just remarkable. So sorry, Dad. And what Julius Erving obviously meant to both leagues was incredible. Elvin Hayes at the 4 spot, just a remarkable player. And then lastly, Kareem dominated the center position, both in Milwaukee and when he went to the Los Angeles Lakers. So those would be my 5.
Only thing I disagree with is Tiny Archibald. At the point guard position, I know for that 1 year Brent talked about, but for the younger generation, it showed you that you can score the basketball, but you can also share and get other people involved. And I think that was good for the game for this next.
Can't go wrong with either guy.
Yeah, at the end of the day. Yeah.
I would like to put Pistol Pete at 2 because for me, he was the first, no offense, Brent, he was the first white guy with style and flair that I've seen. So
why would I take offense to that comment?
Because you're a white guy.
Well, hold on, Ernie.
No, but
Ernie's white.
Ernie is not white. Oh, Ernie is not white. Ernie is light skinned.
He's what?
Ernie is light skinned. Ernie, what up, cuz? What up,
You're light
No, but my question to the panel is, was he the first white guy to have the flash and style and between the legs and behind the back? I mean, because my favorite move was the move he did to Jerry West.
Pete Maravich, he would take the basketball, right, and he would fake the pass. He would bounce it here, bounce it behind him, fake the pass, and you as a defender would jump, and he'd turn back around, catch the ball, and shoot it. That was a hell of a move. And I was like, okay, I got to try that.
No
So I tried it in the game,
Yeah.
and Steve Coulter stole it.
So have we answered some questions on the 70s? Are we done with the 70s?
Yes.
We're ready to move on to the
Unbelievable
80s?
decade.
Yeah.
We will move on to the 80s when we come back here on Open Court.
Ernie's not white.
He's light-skinned.
It became the popular sport in the United States in the 80s because of Bird and Magic and those guys and Isaiah. To me, it's still the greatest decade of basketball.
Johnson over Parrish. He hits it. Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win! They win it!
All right, back here on Open Court, and we move in this discussion of the best 5, sometimes starting 5, sometimes best 5 overall, sometimes NBA, sometimes ABA. It's a wide-ranging conversation. Then we go to the 80s. And now it starts to get interesting because now we get into areas where you played against guys and, well, I don't even need to show you lists of things. I can just say, who was the best point guard of the 1980s, Isaiah?
Come on, Zeke. Say yourself, Zeke. Say yourself, Zeke.
No, honestly, I will have to say Magic Johnson. I believe I was the second best point guard of that era. But Magic Johnson was the best point guard, in my opinion, to ever play. And my 5, if you want the 5.
Yes, I do, of course.
So I'm going Magic at the 1, Jordan at the 2, Bird, Dr. J at 3 and 4, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at the 5. Those are my 5 players of the 80s.
3D, how does
Can I
that
ask
sound?
a question
How does that
real
sound to
quick?
you? Yeah, go ahead.
Given that you,
But-
I just want to say, given
But
that
I
you
was
and-
better than Magic.
I mean,
That's Isaiah, I know.
that Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas, I don't think on this panel that anybody's going to have anybody else to really discuss when we're
No.
talking about the best of that decade. But for you, Isaiah, who are guys, just quick off the top of your head, that you compete against at the point guard that you felt you guys were so great that just didn't get their just due?
I would say in the 80s, for a short period of time, I thought Mark Price had a run in this league for about 2 years or so that was just about as good as anybody. Definitely Mo Cheeks, Gus Williams.
I have one for you.
Tiny Archibald was still,
DJ?
you know, at his,
Dennis?
Dennis?
Yeah, but saying all that,
There was 2.
none of them were like Magic.
Right.
None of us.
Or you.
None of us were like Magic. And the reason why I say that is because in the 80s, I thought we came in and we had original styles. You know, we brought originality to the game. Magic came in and it was like something we had never seen.
That's right.
I thought when I came in, the way I was playing the point guard and the way I was dribbling and moving, it was a different style that the game hadn't seen before. Dr. J was an original. You know, Kareem was an original. So it's like, to me, when you look at the '80s and I look at Jordan, like it was like when he walked in, it was like, damn.
Is he for real?
Well, okay, I remember when we first played against him, it was the Olympic, the Olympic
84.
team in
84.
'84 in Phoenix. And they was doing the pros coming to play against the
Olympic team.
The Olympic team. And I remember Coach Knight saying, Coach Knight was coaching to me, he said, this one a little different now. That's what the old school coach, this one a little different now. And so, you know, in Phoenix, it was hot in the summer, and, you know, you watch guys dunking and everything, but he had a different kind of bounce, you know, jumping and dunking, and I was like, okay, all right, that's kind of nice. And then the game started, and this dude was so fast and so quick. He was like, wait.
It's a PG show. It's a PG-13 show, Coach.
but some curse words are necessary for description.
That's when television and basketball really took off.
Yeah.
You had the Lakers, you had the '80s, you had the floppy hair of Larry Bird, you had the style and grace and flair of Showtime and Magic, and then you had Isaiah and his Bad Boys. And before they were the Bad Boys, I mean, they were putting up 135 points with him and Kelly Tripucka and guys like that, John Long. My mentor, so that's when the '80s, and for a lot of us, okay.
Let me clarify this for the youngsters on the panel. Yeah, Jordan was a great player in the '80s, but they were finishing third and fourth in the division.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay, so I know all y'all watching want to say, oh, Jordan he was great in the '90s.
Yes.
He dominated in the '90s.
Yes.
But in the '80s, he was out in the first round.
Right. And that era for me
That's all I got to say.
but to add to all that,
Message.
that era was the first, to me, the wow era. When you went at each position, each guy, you said wow. Even when you got down to Larry Bird, who wasn't that athletic, hey,
No, you
hey,
go
Rook,
wow.
Hey, Rook,
You wow,
get ready.
wow.
Make this move, pump fake, and score on you. You make the move.
you wow.
Don't have a seat. But that was the point, that each
wowing.
position you wowed in that era.
Go ahead.
You know, and that was the time, I mean, for me, when I fell in love with the game. And you know, for me, you know, first of all, the four greatest that I ever saw in person were Isaiah, Magic, Michael, and Bird. And as you said, Reggie, as television merged, as these great transcendent players emerged, it just was a perfect storm that I think we really owe the success of this league to that time.
I got a chance to be able to talk, touch, and play against Isaiah and Magic. And you talking about debated back in Michigan, who's the better point guard? I think that debate went from nationwide and still goes on. Those were two guys, similar built, similar places growing up, one from inner city in Chicago, one from Lansing. So for me, being right there in Detroit, I thought it was a rite of passage. I could walk up to Isaiah, ask him a question, and he showed me a move.
Right.
I thought everybody could do that. I could walk up to Magic, and he could teach me how to play. I could walk up to George Gervin at almost every recreation center in St. Cecilia, and they stopped their workout and take a young guy. I was very young, and I could go play 2-on-2. Me and Magic versus you and Aguirre.
Right.
I thought everybody had that. I had no, not knowing, but what those two guys did. And I think for me, obviously, is Michael at the 2, Larry Bird at the 3. I have Charles at the 4 and Moses at the 5.
I was going to say we
forget old round of rebound.
Yeah, you can look at this decade and you can list guys, okay, who do not make my starting 5 and say, well, that's a pretty good starting 5 right there. I mean, and you bring up Charles, you think about Kevin McHale, you talk about Karl Malone, you talk about the late, great Moses. And let's center on the power forward position.
Moses is my 4, Kareem is my 5. And I got the same as him. Larry
Well,
Bird.
you just get to change. Y'all get to change in position.
I'm going with best 5.
Yeah, well, that's what I
Get
need
your
to do.
5, and I'll go
Don't
with
even
my
call
5.
the 4 or 5.
I'm going with Magic, Michael, Larry, Moses, Kareem.
So the 80s, unbelievable decade. 90s promises more of the same. And I'm sure we'll hear some stories about,
Now it gets tricky.
about about going head-to-head with some of these
Now
guys
it gets tricky.
who are the best players of the decades. The 90s next here on Open Court.
What's the deal with Scotty?
Wait a minute, wait, ho. I don't mind Michael Jordan saying,
Thank
I
you.
didn't want Isaiah to be on the dream team.
Thank you.
But if Scottie Pippen, man, come on.
Welcome back to Open Court. We moved to the 1990s as we.
Well, speaking of the 1990s, what did you say about Dream Team?
I was so.
It was
rudely
wrong
interrupted.
that Shaq and I wasn't on the dream team. It was just wrong.
And I still,
100% amen.
think Dream Team 2 could beat Dream Team 1. And I don't care who like it.
Hey, I was on Dream Team too. I forgot I was on that team. Forgot.
So, what did you walk into in 1995 as you came into this league?
Wow. You know, I think the league obviously was post-Jordan. Jordan had sort of retired for the first time. And the legends of the 80s who kind of played a little bit into the 90s were retiring as well. Isaiah had just left in Detroit, Magic a few years earlier, Bird. So the league was sort of maybe in a bit of a transition as Shaquille was emerging, you know, Reggie
Emerging.
Smalls.
I was emerged already.
He was born emerged.
No. Whatever. Who was the first pick me word this morning? Not a picture later. Not Alonzo Morning.
Oh, man. That was my train of thought.
I was with him when he wrote that one, too. I was with him when he wrote that. Emerged.
No, but I mean, the league was in transition, I think, and younger guys were emerging as the new stars, as the new pillars of the league. And Shaq, although he was already emerged.
And the interesting thing about this, when we talk about the 90s, is you guys played against all these guys who are up for consideration in here. So, 3D, who would be your team of the 90s if you had to limit it to 5? And now it's your 5 best, or it's 5 by position?
And be careful how you answer that number 5 spot.
I mean, it's a no-brainer who my center
okay.
is. It's
All
a
right.
no-brainer.
Just checking.
Power forward,
Put these hands on you.
Karl Malone.
What?
Intentionally. You know what? If I can say this, Isaiah, he intentionally opened up an old wound.
You sound like Little John over there.
My good, hey, you've got him in stitches with that comment.
Watch this.
Wound and stitches, they go together.
Oh, I remember.
2 guard, obviously.
Stop snitching.
2 guard, obviously. 2 guard MJ.
Okay.
And my point guard, I'm going with John Stockton.
Oh, Lord. Look at this.
No, I'm good with that. I was all right.
It was just my power forward.
Stockton, Jordan, Malone, and Shaq.
And then my small forward, with Dominique Wilkins, just to give him some love.
In the 90s?
Well, I know at 90 he was still giving us buckets. Now it might not be, but that's what I'm going with. I'm leaving it at that.
In the 90s, I would
No,
take
I
him
wouldn't.
over Dominique.
In the 90s, I would go, and I know
Dominique was
some
on the Achilles.
Yeah, he had
I have Scottie
And
Pippen.
then-
Scotty would be in the
I had-
90s.
yeah.
And I know that
I was waiting for it.
I had a great 6 years, but I think I didn't win. And I didn't have, we're judged, as Reggie said earlier, on postseason. I didn't have great success in the 90s in the postseason. So, if that's part of the criteria, then yeah, Scotty gets it. But head up,
Head up.
I bet my numbers.
It's Grant Hill. Head up.
My numbers were,
You
yes.
talk about the numbers being very similar, and they were, except that that you averaged more points, rebounds, and assists than he did.
No, Bird, wait. Let's
I got more
acknowledge-
touches.
Let's acknowledge on the real who this guy really is sitting here, because when Jordan was retiring and Grant Hill was coming into the league, we were talking about passing the mantle
To Grant.
Yes. You was going. So it ain't like you won. Scottie Pippen couldn't carry the league. Jordan carried the league. We're talking about a guy like yourself carrying the league. So you can't sit there and be like, oh, well, you know, Scott, you know that.
Hey, you know what? I'll let you say it. If you want to say
the worst
it.
Grant Hill ever.
I respect my
No, but it's like, it's like real.
We know.
No, Stan, you know, it's like.
You know what? Damn it, it's me.
What?
I'm just going forward.
Does
Reggie,
Scottie
what's
Pippen
going on?
have pictures of you or something? What's the deal with Scottie?
Wait a minute. Wait. Ho.
Something's going on.
I'm messy, Reggie.
Did you want him on the team?
Well, I can't speak for Michael, but no, I did not want him on the team.
I don't mind Michael Jordan saying,
Thank
I
you.
didn't want Isaiah to be on the Dream Team.
Thank you.
I don't mind, you know, if Larry Bird said, I don't want Isaiah to be on the Dream Team.
But
if Scottie Pippen say, I don't want Isaiah to be on the Dream Team,
That's the problem.
man, come on. You can't say nothing.
I got a new
You
topic
can't
for
say,
the
you
open
can't
court.
say nothing. If Jordan is
something
like,
here.
look, I'm not playing. If Isaiah plays, okay, all right. Scottie Pippen, I'm not playing. If Isaiah plays, man, go to the park.
Reedy, I need you to get up for a second. Get up for a second, if you would, Reedy.
Okay.
And Isaiah, lay down on the couch. How long have you been harboring this, Isaiah? Are you feeling better now that it's come out, Isaiah?
Well, you know, Ernie, it's been a while. It's been on my mind, you know, for about, 25 years right now.
Does this feel like a weight is being lifted off of you?
Well, yeah, because I finally get to talk about it and just, the whole Dream Team experience. And again, I got no problems with, the greatest player to ever play say he don't want to play with me, or Magic saying he don't. But anybody below them talking about they don't want to play with me? Anybody?
Excuse me, Mr. Thomas.
And I say below them?
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
your hour is up. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to charge you more. But I'm glad you feel better. Okay, let's move on. There we go. Very good. Thank you. Very nice.
Coach.
That's awesome. Okay, Shaq, tell me about the 90s.
I'm going to go at the 5 spot. I'm going to go with Akeem Olajuwon. Because for me, I know I was coming in and I was emerging / already emerged. He was the only guy that I couldn't figure out. I couldn't figure him out. And he was the only guy that I couldn't intimidate. The Georgetown boys, we all know they're going to fake left and go right. Rick Smith used to kill me early on, too. But
You say fake left and go right.
yeah, fake hard left. Go right the whole time, yo. And just go right. Go ahead, Alonzo. Go right. Go ahead. Go right and give me that dumbass running hook. But anyway, him at the 5. I agree with D. Karl Malone at the 4 spot was a beast. That pick and roll, him and Stockton in the pick and roll, unstoppable. At the 3, I don't know at the 3 yet. But at the 2, Mike, of course. And at the point guard, I'm going to go with GP.
Only because there's another decade to go, which is a really large verbal parachute for me at this point at center, which will be him. But in the 90s, I would take Akeem Olajuwon and what it is that he represented at the center position. I mean, he redefined what it was to be an athlete at that spot in much the way that, Chamberlain did with his footwork and athleticism. He was incredible. At the 4, Karl Malone and Charles is an awesome debate, but I would choose Karl Malone to play the 4 spot. At the small forward, I've talked to Grant at length about his career. I mean, he was absolutely the guy that was going to be what the league was about. Class, could do everything on the court and off the court. He was going to be that guy. And because of injuries and things that happen, because of Scottie Pippen winning championships at the small forward, it's hard not to put Scottie Pippen as the best small forward throughout the 90s. Great two guards in the 90s, Reggie Miller, Joe Dumars, Mitch Richmond, Clyde Drexler, all behind Michael Jordan. I mean, there's just not, it's hard to say that, but Reggie, you deserve.
I ain't not dumb enough to put myself in.
And then the point guard is a tough one because you're talking about how to play the point guard and guys that could do a little bit of everything. And Gary Payton and John Stockton represented the 90s, this 90s decade in two very, very different ways. And so it depends on what kind of style of ball you'd like to play. And I played with Gary in Seattle and grew up watching him in Oakland at Skyline High School and then on the Oregon State and then his years in Seattle. But I would pick John Stockton, who I think was more capable of doing more things in Utah, but because of that system, did what it was that needed to be done for Jerry Sloan and for Karl Malone.
Everybody satisfied? Everybody had their say here on the 90s?
Reggie.
Well, I mean, you guys are going by position, so I went with the best five. So.
There you go.
And they are?
Well, MJ, obviously. Well, let me start by saying special consideration, so people don't get upset. To Isaiah, special consideration to Shaq, and special consideration to Grant. But Charles, Carl, Hakeem, and he's really not going to like this. David Robinson. I mean, David Robinson gets overlooked as one of the best centers of all time.
Reggie, are you thirsty?
90s.
I want you to drink some of this.
You can say what you want, but 2 championships later in the MVP, David Robinson was a load.
Yeah, no, he was the man.
He was a load in the 90s.
And Patrick Ewing doesn't get a mention from anybody?
He just did.
Just try to be fair at the center.
When we're talking about centers, he would probably be the 4th behind David, Hakeem, and Shaq. Not in that order. You might be higher, you may be lower.
This is
Just because, like you said, we have another decade to go where you get rewarded.
one
Can't
thing.
get every decade.
One thing that we
Why
did.
not?
thing that we did glean out of that whole thing is Georgetown Hoya. Say it again. Let me see it. Ready? Let's see it.
You ready, Hook? Go ahead, Alonzo. Go that way. Dikembe, Patrick, you too. That dumbass running. Eliminate that shot from the game.
All right, we got the 2000s still to go as we wrap up this edition of Open Court. We'll be back to do that right after this.
There was this little good-looking David Beckham little guy running around like a gnat, just would always beat me out in the MVP voting. And I'm averaging 28-15 without the free throws. He got 2, I got 1, Kobe got 1. Something wrong with that picture.
We welcome you back to Open Court. We've been talking about teams by decade, and we wrap it up now with the 2000s, going up through 2009, I guess. So anything 2010 after, don't go there. All right. Everything good?
Good.
All right.
Great.
Who would like to start giving me a 5 from the 2000s?
Big fella.
I guess you would, big fella.
Number 5, I'll put Dr. O'Neal.
Okay.
At the 2, you got to go with the Copester.
Okay.
At the 3, who was at the 3? Give me some names.
LeBron.
T-Mac.
Yeah, LeBron.
Melo.
Yeah, LeBron at the 3. At the 4, you got to go with Mr. Duncan. And the point's going to be hard. Nash beat me out twice for MVP. I still don't know how.
How about Allen?
AI, yeah. Ooh,
Hey, Shaq, do you need to get on the couch now, too?
Actually, I do.
All right, guys, get up for a second. Hold on.
Man, put an extender on there. I was going to extend it. All right, put the extender on there, Brad.
Dr. O'Neal.
Do you want me to hold the seat?
Don't touch the tongs.
What seems to be your overriding concern today? What is your issue? What would you like to get off your chest?
It was this little good-looking David Beckham little guy running around like a gnat, just passing the ball to people and doing this and doing that. He scored every now and then, but He would always beat me out in the MVP voting. And I'm averaging 28-15 without the free throws.
Do you not?
And I'm going to the finals every year.
Do you not feel that Steve Nash deserved the award at all? There's not a part of you that says, yes, Steve Nash deserved the award for the following reasons.
Maybe once, but not twice over the diesel. Twice, 2 times in a row. He got 2, I got 1, Kobe got 1. Something wrong with that picture. Whatever camera you're using, throw it away. Get a new camera.
Anything else you need to get off your chest at this point?
No, I'm just, I'm mad I wasn't on Dream Team 1. I'm mad they started the Hacker Shack.
Are you really? Because you've always said that just proves that they're losers or they don't know how to play the game.
That is true, but I wasn't born with the gifts that Reggie and Isaiah and D. Scott were born with. I wasn't born with the shoot and touch. I was born with the
So are you bitter about that as well?
Yeah, I'm bitter about that. I'm mad about... I'm mad about, what else? I'm mad about Pat Riley used to practice me 5 hours a day. I'm mad Phil Jackson used to come in with something called Sage that smelled like weed to me. Not that I know what weed smells like. He used to come in every day and make us meditate. I'm mad about a lot, man. I'm mad Nick Anderson missed those 4 free throws.
Okay, now he's getting real.
Now, man, now. It ain't about Nick, though. It ain't about Nick. It's about Kenny walking around thinking he a legend now. Come on, Nick. All you got to do is make 1, Nick Anderson.
There's a lot going on in there. And since this is the last segment, I don't know.
I'm mad Penny had little Penny.
You guys aren't too uncomfortable with 3 on a bench there, are you? We're good. No, you stay there. We're good. The last segment.
We're good,
fella.
You just stretch out. You just stretch out.
Yeah, go ahead, stay there.
Little penny dolls running around the locker room. That's Tyra Banks, fool.
I feel better for it.
Yeah, I'm
What is wrong with this dude?
So who's your point guard?
I'm going to go with AI. Because he was fearless. He was like me, my thing was any little guy that came in there, I'm going to touch him up, Ernie. I'm going to touch him up and lay him down. But he was the only one, besides Gary, he was the only one that just kept coming back. And the year they made it to the finals and got killed by us, he did everything that year.
Oh, Lord.
He did everything.
In here, guys. Give me some 5s.
I've got AI, Kobe, I've got Duncan, I've got KG, and I got the big fella.
Not about KG.
Big fella, Tim
My bad,
Duncan,
KG.
LeBron,
Honorable mention.
Special
Kobe.
consideration.
Yeah. Then point guard, I'm going with Jason Kidd.
Zeke?
I'm going to go Jason Kidd, Kobe over AI. I look at AI as a 2, not a 1.
Good call.
Shaq, Duncan, Garnett.
Talk about special consideration when we do these. Paul Pierce.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Dirk. Certainly in there.
Dirk.
Tracy McGrady.
T-Mac.
Yeah.
Trace McGrady to 3.
Eric Snow.
Who?
Eric Snow.
At what position?
I don't know.
That's why he's sitting on that couch.
Lay down again. Put Steve Nash into context here for me in 2000. What do you have to do besides win 2 MVPs to get consideration in that span?
You know, I played with him along with Shaq, and I think there's and correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's this feeling that Nash really took off and became MVP caliber once the rules kind of changed. And, you know, before that, there was a physicality to the game. And once they took the physicality out, you know, at 31, 32, he had his best years, which you really don't hear of. And so, you know, I think people I think people
let it go, Shaq.
No,
let it go.
No way, never.
Let it go.
Ernie, just so let me preface it. I have Jason Kidd as my 2000 point guard, but I feel like I think I've heard this from people that they feel that he benefited from the rule change, and as a result, you know, had those really good years in the mid.
Only reason why I'm going with AI, I'm taking it back to the playground. If Jason Kidd, AI, Steve Nash, and Gary Payton, they're all lined up,
Nash is going to be the last person selected out of those three. That's how I'm going to look at it. There's nothing about his talents. I love his talent, but I'm going with those other three guys ahead of him.
We're wrapping things up. I wish we could all go around, but I think we've kind of made the point that boy, but there's some special times in this league and some real mileposts in this league that propelled it to the.
Let it go,
next
Shaq.
level.
And I think Ernie, I think Anthony Davis might be one of those guys.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis. Besides the big fella over there.
What is wrong with this kid?
I think Anthony Davis.
Never let that go. Ever.
5 to 10 years of being.
Never, ever.
No wonder we didn't win in Phoenix. He's mad at the point guard.
You're right.
Ernie,
I should have signed someplace else.
Christmas Day in Phoenix, right? Grant tells somebody, I ain't gonna say his name, Jason Richardson, don't leave Ginobili open in the corner. Leaves him open in the corner, we lead by one. We get in the locker room. No, but listen,
Get up, man.
we get in the locker room.
Come on, 3D.
There's chicken, macaroni, turkey. I just turned everything on. Ain't nobody eating today. Nobody.
Shaq, lay back down.
Yeah, lay down.
This is going to take all day. We'll see you next time on Open Court. All right, so Jason Richardson is also an issue for you.
I was mad because I didn't eat that night.
I'm just mad, Ernie.